Hi saplings, my name is Kenny and welcome to theme class. So, do you remember what we're learning about this theme? I can give you a hint. It's the sun. Are you ready to learn more things about the sun, the earth, and even the moon this time? Well, let's get started. Let's say I can learn all about the sun. One more time. I can learn all about the sun. Last time, we learned that the earth goes around the sun. This is called revolution. The earth revolves around the sun. The earth revolves around the sun. But did you know that the earth also rotates? What does that mean? Well, revolution is to go around the sun. But rotation is just to spin. So the earth spins just like this, around and around and around. But if you remember, we learned that the earth isn't straight up and down like this. It's this way. So it's spinning around and around like this. Now, because the earth is spinning, that's how we get day and night. So let's look here. So day is the part of the day where the earth is facing towards the sun. So you can see here in this bright part, that's day. And then night is when the earth is going away from the sun. So if we were this part right here, this would be daytime. But then when we spin around, it would be nighttime, just like that. And that happens over and over and over. It takes 24 hours for the earth to rotate. What else is 24 hours? Do you know? One day. That's why every day we get day and night, because it takes about 24 hours for the earth to rotate. So while the earth is going around the sun in its revolution, that takes 1 year, it's also spinning every day. So it spins much faster than it revolves. Are you feeling dizzy? We're spinning right now. But again, we don't feel it. So because the earth rotates, we get day and night. Because the earth revolves, we get the seasons. So revolution takes 1 year, rotation takes 1 day. Those are two words, but let's try to remember what each one means. Now, we also want to talk about this little guy over here. Do you know what it is? It's the moon. Now, one thing that's important to know is, even though this is Earth's moon, lots of planets have moons. This is just the one that is by our planet Earth. So a moon is something that orbits a planet. What is orbit? Well, we actually already learned that and we didn't even know it. Orbit means to revolve around. So just like the Earth orbits or revolves around the sun, the moon is revolving around the Earth too. So many things happening at one time. And don't forget, while that's happening, the earth is rotating. Oh my goodness, I really am starting to get dizzy. It's so many things happening all at the same time, and we don't even notice. The moon is made of rocks, and it's covered in craters. Those are little dips like this on the inside or on the surface of the moon. So the moon kind of goes like this. And it doesn't have any clouds, rain, wind, or snow. So this is what the moon looks like. And the moon is also very important to us. We see the moon at nighttime. But there are some things we need to know about why we see the moon at night. And that's shadows. Do you know what a shadow is? Well, have you ever stood outside and looked down at the ground and then you see something that looks like you, but on the ground? A nice black shadow. Well, a shadow is what happens when the sun is shining on us. And we get different types of shadows and different sizes of shadows depending on the time of the day. So let's say, for example, this is you. And we already know that the earth is spinning and we see the sun at different parts of the day. So that makes it seem like the sun is moving, even though it's us that's moving. So in the morning, if the sun is starting over here, we could see it has a pretty long shadow. And as the day goes, the shadow gets smaller. So when it's about lunchtime, your shadow is very small. But as the day gets longer or goes down, the shadow, once again, goes away. And this would keep going all the way around. So depending on where the sun is or the position of the sun, that depends on what a shadow looks like. Now, that's true about many things, like the moon. Have you ever noticed that sometimes you can see a big moon that's like a circle, but then other times you only see a small moon that looks like a crescent? Well, that's actually because of shadows. You see, the moon reflects light, which means light bounces off of it so we can see it. Have you ever looked in a mirror and seen yourself? Well, that's your reflection. Reflection is something we see back. So, light bounces off of the moon so that we can see it. So, when we see a big moon, that means the light from the sun is shining on the moon where we can see it. When we don't see the moon at all, that means the sun is on the other side of the moon. Pretty confusing. Let me try to explain. Okay, so let's look here. So here we have the moon, the earth, and the sun. Now, when the moon is here, the sun is shining and the light is coming back. So we can see it on the earth. That's when we see the whole moon. We call that a full moon. Now, remember, the moon is revolving around the earth. So at some point, the moon will get between the earth and the sun. So when that happens, the light from the sun is only bouncing here. So it's shining that way. So we're only seeing the shadow. And depending on where the moon is, depends how big the shadow is. So again, when the earth is here, the light of the sun is bouncing back. So we can see the whole moon. That's called a full moon. But when the earth moves, or the moon moves as well, because they're both moving, at some point, the moon gets between the sun and the earth. So the light is still bouncing that way, but we can't see it. We don't see anything. So it looks like the moon is gone, but actually the moon hasn't changed at all. It just moved, and we're only seeing shadow. So we call that a new moon, which means we don't see anything. So sometimes you might think, well, the moon went away, but actually it's only shadow. We just can't see it because we're looking at the dark shadow. So there are 8 phases of the moon. Let's learn what those phases are. So here, when we don't see anything, we call that a new moon because it's like the moon is just starting over and it's being made. Now, when we go this way, it means that it's getting bigger. Getting bigger, we call waxing. So the first thing we see is a waxing crescent moon. Waxing crescent moon. So you can see here, the crescent shape is the part that is in the light, whereas the rest of the moon is in the shadow. Then here, we have first quarter. Now we can see about half of the moon, while the rest is in shadow. Here, we have waxing gibbous. The gibbous moon means we can see most of it, and it's a crescent that's in the shadow. And then here, the full moon. That means the sun is shining and we can see the full reflection because the earth is in the middle. Then it seems like the moon is getting smaller again. We call that waning. When it's getting smaller, it's waning. So we have waning gibbous, when we again have a very large amount that we can see and about a crescent shape in the shadow. Third quarter, much like first quarter, we can see half of the moon, but the other half is in shadow. Waning crescent, we see a crescent shape, but it's like the other side of the one we saw before. And then again, new moon. So it just does that over and over and over again. It takes about 27 days for the moon to revolve around the earth. So we have a new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent. One more time. Say it with me. New moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent, and then back to full moon. So remember, waxing means getting bigger, waning means getting smaller. So here I have the phases of the moon, but they're all gone. Let's see, can you remember where the different phases of the moon go? So starting from when we can't see any moon at all, which one is that? What's first? The new moon. All right, let's put this on our chart. All right, new moon. So it looks like there's no moon, but actually we're just seeing the moon's shadow. All right, so now what do we have? Well, next we can only see a little bit of the moon. But is that waning crescent or waxing crescent? Which one means to get bigger? Waxing crescent. So waxing is getting bigger. So let's put waxing crescent over here. All right, do you remember what comes after waxing crescent? This is the part where we can see half of the light shining. The first quarter. Next is our first quarter. Very good. All right, so what comes after the first quarter? Well, at this point, we can see most of the moon, and there's only a crescent that's still shadow. Well, that sounds like a gibbous moon to me, but again, is it a waxing gibbous or a waning gibbous? Which one is it? Waxing gibbous. There we go. Now remember, this phase of the moon is where it looks like we can see everything because the light is all reflecting off of the moon. Do you know what it is? It's a full moon. There we go. All right, so now we want the moon to start going away, or the shadow getting bigger. It looks like it's going away, but actually it's just going around us, just like we're going around the sun. So we know now we can't see the full thing, but is that a crescent or a gibbous moon? It's a gibbous moon. So we can move on to our waning gibbous. Here we go. Now, which one? Well, if you notice, they kind of go together. So next, we need another quarter moon, the third quarter. that leaves us with waning crescent. Okay, so let's go in order and see if we did it. New moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waxing crescent. Wow, good job. Thank you so much for helping me put all of the phases of the moon together. Now, let's review. So we learned about the sun, the earth, and the moon. And mainly about the sun and how it changes everything and makes everything come alive. So the sun is the reason we get seasons because the earth is revolving around the sun. It's also the reason we get day and night because when the earth is spinning around or rotating, we can only see the sun for part of the day. It's also the reason why it seems like the moon goes away sometimes and other times is super big because the light from the sun is reflecting or bouncing off the surface of the moon. Who knew the sun did so many things? All right, great job today, saplings. I hope that you can come and tell me new facts that you've learned about the sun. I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.